Right. So here I am with Packer Star of Makers now, king of Element One, runner up in Element Two. Packer, how you doing?
I actually didn't play Element 2. I was in Pro League.
Fuck, you're right. God damn it.
So,
I cooked up this whole spiel and it was
eh,
wrong. God damn. Amateur
it's,
mistake. All good. All right. All good. Um,
you're all good.
I just saw Cardico and I was like, Packer and Card back at it again. I'm a
No,
believer.
I didn't play that one.
Nah. So reigning Element 1 champion, has not
Hmm.
lost his crown, teamed with
No.
Kobe Lax, who won
Hmm.
Element 2. Here we go. This is a transition. Professional sidestep. Um,
Uh-huh.
Packer, but obviously, would prefer to be in element in tier one, but Element's a pro am.
Yeah.
You're getting to compete against some pro teams. What are your thoughts on like it being a pro am, getting to compete against some of these pro teams and kind of show your stuff against more than tier two teams? Because I know one critique that people have when you look at tier two competition is like, especially if you have a player that's been in and out of pro league a couple times, the
Hmm.
conversation starts turning to oh well they're just a tier two farmer. They never do
Yeah.
it in tier one. With the tier one teams here, like, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that like would silence any of those potential conversations that rise up?
Yeah. So we all have T1 aspirations, right? Like I believe I'm a T1 player at heart. Everyone on my team believes they're a T1 player, right? Like Giddy's been in T2 for a long time. He's been farming literally like you're saying for a long time. But like I like my first stage like was in Pro League with Wildcard. I felt like I didn't put out my performance that I should have. I played well in the beginning of the stage and then I let some mental stuff and some things outside of the game get to me. So that just ruined my stage for me, and like I trolled my team out of a spot, and I know that. So I've came back into this stage with this team, willing to learn and improve on those mistakes, fix my mentality because that's like the biggest issue that I felt like I had through my T2 career,
Yeah.
and I'm here just to improve. Like I've learned how to IGL. I've learned how to like play with my team more, play like more in a system always learning, always VOD reviewing, always watching these other teams, always doing prep work on these teams so that I could be better, so that I can make our team better suited for these. I've never before wildcard done any of the extra work to do it, so I was very unprepared for T1 as my first opportunity, and I feel like that was only my fault, and I can't really put the blame on like anyone else, and that's just I want to go in this pro am and I want to beat these pro league teams to prove that I am a T1 player at the end of the day and to show at least put out a good showing, right, as a team.
Yeah, yeah. And that's pretty impressive because it sounds like you've taken all of that experience of like you weren't necessarily prepared for tier one
Mm.
play, but you took the lessons of like, oh shit, this is how they operate up here, and you're taking it back down to makers. How has that like benefited both you for these tournaments? Because it looks like you're kind of running the tier two scene a little bit with some of these tournament wins, but also how
Mm.
has it benefited your teammates? Because like Giddy hasn't really had that opportunity. Bino, like he's been in tier two as well. Like how has this experience benefited makers as a team?
We've benefited if you go back to like the last league, right? We're one of the best attacking teams in the league at the moment. We've
Yeah,
been learning a lot, and I mean even against T1 teams in scrims, we're a very good attacking team. At the end of it, like we are like Bino hasn't really been on a good team before this. Like this is like a big learning step for him, right? Because
yeah,
we're all winners really. Like Wes was on a team with Poison for a long time, so that's a whole different system than ours. My systems I've always played in T2 have always been like more aggressive, like flow and like playing off each other. And he's not used to that, so he's starting to get used to that now. And like that's a big system. Like changing systems in T2 is a big thing to learn,
yeah.
so that when you get to Pro League, like you can adapt. And like it's just a big like everyone's just learning on this team. Like Kobe was on a team that was like just straight gunning and like like gunfire, so he's learning now like how to play more crosses, play more passive sometimes, play off of each other. Like we're all learning at like improving at the same time. Like this is not like we're not at our best, right? Like we are only been a team since like literally the first day of major quals. That's when we formed our team. We never scrimmed really before that. So like we've only been a team for like 3 months at this point, but we're like still improving. Like there's still plenty of growth for us as a team. We're all talented players at the end of the day, right? Like I
Yeah.
mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's just us putting in work and VOD reviewing. Like, we should have beat Ariel 3-0 against that team. We choked some of those attacks. We had all the prep in the world on those guys. Those guys didn't do anything to win that game. It was just us losing.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, you've kind of stepped up to be that IGL shot caller role in this team.
Yes. I've started to learn more and more about like the game and positioning and all that for like put my teammates in a better position so that we can continuously win attacks and make sure we win games.
Yeah, and I so obviously nerfs to Solus and the Zombie and Tubarão and Fender definitely help with making attacks more viable. But is there something about like the meta or or like the scope changes or any of that stuff that particularly makes attacking easy for you, or is it just you know
I mean,
at this point?
attacking because of the nade nerf, like a long time ago, and like the especially like the nerfs now to like Solus and all that. I feel like lurking is like a big thing, and as a prior like lurker, right? Like I know where gaps are based on certain setups, and I know that, so I can put my teammates into certain positions that would benefit them while also benefiting like myself. So we
Yeah.
all are like and we all have the same idea based on like what this person's doing. Because I'll be like, hey, Giddy, go hop in trophy window, like they double reinforce off the wall, and then everyone knows what he's doing, and I can make the plan around what Giddy's gonna be doing because I
Okay.
know the gap that he's gonna be taking.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot easier for me to communicate with my teammates based on like if because I know the setups, I know the lurk spots, I know that, so it just puts people in better positions. And I mean, and with the attacking, it's like kind of just cheese some rounds. Like you gotta change the pace up a lot. You
Yeah.
gotta either sometimes you gotta bring Monty. Some rounds you just go super fast, hopping in windows. Some fast you just grim and buck below the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just chaos. You got attack is just lurking chaos, just cheese. Just gotta do something to win a round.
Yeah. And so what are the expectations for makers? Because I've heard some people say like, yeah, when these guys first formed, and especially after your quals run, like these guys are at the level of like a low PL team at least. You get
Mhm.
to prove it. What are your expectations here? Because you're like I
We're a
mentioned.
lo- we're we're a pro league team. At the end of the day, like we're a pro league team. Like we're all like pro league level players. So we believe we're a pro league team. It might like people might say it's the low end. Like they can have that opinion, right? I'm not gonna put like a category on what side we're on. Like we just
Yeah.
got to prove it, right? Like we had one showing against SSG when we were a team for about 4 weeks. It was a bad. It wasn't that great of a showing, but we took them. They took them to OT one map, right? We should
Yeah.
have. We believe we should have won that map. We just trolled, at the end of the day, but. I mean, we got to just prove ourselves in this element, in World Cup quals, and all these things to prove that we are a pro league team because we are the best out of T2. But we're not focusing on T2. We're focusing on beating pro league teams because we've already I've been there, done that. Like I've
Yeah.
been there, beat. I haven't lost a CL stage in 2 years or 2 seasons or whatever you want to call
That's
it.
true. Uh, you are going up against your old King Karn, however.
Mm.
Any worries about facing the old King, or is it time that you kind of overtake him?
I mean, I've been overtaking Karn. The whole reason I joined Karn because he gave me like a redemption, whatever. But I like Karn will agree with me. Like I put Karn back on the map. Like let's be real. Like when I joined, I put Karn back on the map, and now he's been succeeding with these teams. And I mean, he's a great player, and I loved playing with him. But I'm excited to play him again. Like he beat me in TPL. I didn't get to play him in playoffs because he went on vacation. But I mean. At the end of the day, he beat me in the regular season, but I'm still a playoff player at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, yeah,
hopefully I see him then.
yeah. I mean, I'd love the storyline. I'd eat that shit up. Um, I did notice on the Wikipedia it says that you guys do not have a coach. Is this accurate? And like, if so, it seems like an active choice because you guys would probably have a pick of a litter as far as like tier two, like possibly T1 coaches that have been dropped,
Yeah.
right?
We actually after Revan fell through like that roster, we got Sub as our coach. So
Oh,
we've had
okay.
Sub for about like a month and a half. We just haven't really like announced it or like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
org hasn't announced it, but he's been coaching us recently. I mean, he's a great coach. He's been helping us improve a lot, and I would say like most of the reasons that we've been like improving as individuals are because of him and as a team, right? Like
yeah,
he's a big part. Like, there's only so much you could do as a coach if the players aren't listening, and like we've all been listening, and he's been the goat.
Yeah, yeah. And so I did want to ask a little bit about the tournament format because, we've got a lot of different stuff here, like from the Swiss stage into round robin and all that shit, but also just the 3-3 splits now, like the actual
Hmm.
in game format. What are your thoughts on that, and how does that affect, like, the way that you call and, like, the way that you play?
Um, I think you're gonna have to probably bring like on defense, like you're gonna have to change like your play style a lot more because people have like a better time talking about it and like they can think about it a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna like you're gonna play your defenses and then there's gonna be a timeout and then you can talk about like the whole split of like what they did the previous time. So if you just exactly run the same thing back with no changes, right? Like they could just perfectly counter you. Like everyone at like this level is just understands the game to some extent, right?
Yeah.
So that I think will have to be you have to change your defenses like a decent amount. I think though it's a good change. It'll make closer games. I don't think you'll get like blown out like 6-0 on a defensive split anymore, and then like the game will end like 7-1, right? Because you only
Yeah,
got like
yeah.
two chances and they got a so it'll make closer games. But if you get dominated like 7-0, it'll just show like who was clearly the better team. So I think it's a good change. It doesn't make it like as one-sided, and I think like it'll make it so that like closer games, like teams play better, and like it'll just make it more interesting, I think.
Yeah. And do you think that the extra timeout in the middle of the game is a good addition? I know for some people, like, the value of a coach's timeout was kind of too limited with that 145-second timeout. Like, do you
Yeah.
care?
I think it's a good addition, right? Because like it can like your coach can bring up so much information for you and like help you guys get on the same page. And I mean, it could just make you like you could like he could be like, "Oh, run like these strats when you go back these sites. Like this team struggle has been like struggling with this or like so it's just it's a good change. Um I do think it's a like it would just be better to make it so that like a team has like two timeouts each and they could just kind
Yeah.
of call it. But I will say that could slow down the game like too much to the point where like it could be like timeout by a coach next round, and then the other team calls a timeout. Like it could just slow down the game a little too much. So I do understand it. The timeout in the middle is a good change, though. I think it could just help with strategy and help both teams like stay together.
Yeah, yeah. And so we touched on Karn a little bit, but who do you think the top dogs of this tournament will be? Obviously the pro league teams are always going to be in the mix as like, oh, these guys are going to be dangerous, but surely there's some T2 stand-ups, yourself included, that will actually be able to compete, and like, are the T1 teams as surefire wins as they seem on the surface?
No, I think there'll be some upsets by T2 teams. To be honest, I like either because like the pro league teams like the top ones would like take it not as serious, or they'll not have the same energy that they would if they were playing like an actual pro game. But besides that, like I also feel like some teams are just gonna outclass some of the like the bottom pro league teams, and it'll just and at the end of the day, like as a pro league team, you can't be losing to a T2 team. Like I've been there, done that. Like just now, it says like you can't do that. Like it just ruins like the whole dynamic in your team and all that. So as I think like we are definitely gonna beat a pro league team. Like I will 100% put it down there. Like we are going to beat a pro league team in this stage.
Okay.
But I think Ariel or Upper Decky could upset a team.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, are there any teams that you really want to face? Just because they're freelo, because you just really want to beat these guys. They've been like rivals, or just talking smack in the scrims or something, or just anything like that.
LG always be talking, so like just and I always beat them, so I don't know why they always talk to me, but they always be talking. So LG is one.
All
I
right.
love Karn, so Karn. Poison was always fun. Wild card because I used to be my old org. Um,
You just got the
I
list, dude.
got
You got the
I
Rolodex.
I have a list, you know what I'm saying? Like I just wanna whoever like I mean OXG, Sonics, like SS like I just wanna play pro league teams and I wanna beat them, you know, at the end of the day. Like I'm not here to beat up on the T2 teams. I'm here to beat the pro league teams at the end of the day. Like the pro league teams are what's more important to me.
All right. All right. And then just to close out, is there anything you want to say? Anyone you want to shout out? Any Mr. B spiels of we're gonna go flawless? Rah rah
Shout out,
rah.
shout out my goat, Mr. B, and Ashiana. Shout out my org makers because they're the goats, and shout out my team for trusting me to go through the process of like changing from like a lurker to a IGL. Like, not I wouldn't say hard brutes, but like a plan maker, I guess.
Yeah, it's a big it's a big jump. It's a big gamble. So
Mm.